Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Valorant Game Changers presented by Verizon. It's series number 2 today. We got Complexity GS3 versus Teddy Tactics. I had to bring this buddy on here, and I have the great Vansily and the president slash queen of Gomp Nation herself, Gompers on the desk. Although I might renounce my citizenship because you just really made me feel old in the green room right now.
Yep.
That actually makes me think, because right now I'm looking at the screen and we all look like me and Vans are like lower than yours, so I feel like we're your children right now.
Yes. Like more like not like a nona nanny, like grandma, probably at this point, given the esports aging. But it's all good. I'll take it. Love you either way. Proud citizen still. I'll maintain my, like, make sure I get my passport
Boomers
going.
Unite. Boomers Unite. We're still good here.
Boomers Unite. There you go.
If anything, we just teach the youngins about what they were missing back in like the 80s and 90s. So.
I swear, I know more. I know a lot of things, okay?
All right. Let's reel it back again here because we do have, like I said, Complexity GX3 versus Teddy Tactics. This is Group D coming at you right now. And I mean, we saw Complexity. They performed pretty phenomenal, finished their match pretty fast, whereas Teddy Tactics kind of went the distance here. Did they not, Mr. Vans?
Definitely. I mean, at this point, we were still waiting and on the sidelines to see how it was going to finish for Teddy Tactics. Went into a 3-mapper, so it was actually quite nice. Complexity, I mean, we've been talking about this team a lot since the beginning of the year, because at the beginning of the year, before we had all of these events, before heading into Game Changers, it was a lot of like Complexity, CLG, FaZe Clan getting into these tournaments where like the quote-unquote favorites of the tournaments as the version 1s or the Shopify Rebellions weren't really participating in those. So you had an opportunity to get a lot of limelight on teams like Complexity. And we see the potential that this team has and what they could bring. It could potentially be like one of the teams that could upset really the tournament to make it into the finals.
Upset indeed, and we know as well, like, this is going to be an established roster on the side of Complexity, whereas Teddy Tactics forming themselves for this particular Game Changers here. Now, Gompers, as far as, oh my god, there's the logo. We were propped and prepped that the Teddy Tactics logo is, I love it so much.
Can we just keep that on the whole time?
Yeah.
You don't have to see us. You don't have to see us. It's all good. But yeah, okay. So back to that, familiarity and experience from the side of GX3 versus Teddy Tactics. Although big shout out to one of our maybe caster analysts bias is Pinecone on that roster, Gompers. Are we excited to see how Teddy Tactics is going to be performing here?
I am. And listen, you said Pinecone. Listen, Pinecone, if you guys don't know, actually was behind the scenes of Game Changers a lot throughout last year. And now they're finally on the screen and they finally get that recognition. Listen, they were a hard worker before, being in that production space, and now they're in the competitive space and they're just as hardworking as before. So I'm excited to see what this team brings through.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that because Pinecone's my homie too. She's been around the scene for Valorant for a very long time. Somebody I met even when I started working in and just hosting in Toronto. We did some Rainbow Six together. Pinecone has great experience in Counter-Strike as well, making it into the mid-tier in mixed teams. And also, we also have Aria in the roster too. And I'm pretty sure then that Ender is probably still up and listening to the broadcast because, it's a sister playing. So it's going to be super exciting to see now these two coming together with 3 other players and also able to, win a 3-map series where on maps where you usually don't see it go to, right? We're talking about like Pearls at this point, Lotus, Splits. Like, no pug teams usually wants to practice to play these maps. You want to bring it towards like the Havens and the Ascent of the worlds, but they're bringing it to the complicated maps, coming out with different agent compositions and winning on those maps too. But these players have deep agent pools on top of that, so this is a nice little storyline for Teddy Tactics coming up against Complexity here.
Now, let's talk about Complexity a little bit because this is like I said, an established roster, and we talked about it at the top of the show, Jazzykins coming off of Cloud9. I'm going to start with you here, Vans. How are we expecting, because this is a little bit a different Game Changers roster for Complexity from last year, but it's still established players. How do you feel about them?
Yeah, I actually feel really good about this current Complexity roster. Even like they went through some changes. The last 2 players that actually, left the roster to go into Evil Genius's current roster, which are Kinsey and Parapixel together. Those 2 were actually amazing for the roster for Complexity. So when I heard that these 2 left, I was like, oh my god, those are some big shoes to fill. But you're bringing in Jazzykins from Cloud9 White, star player, star fragger for the team, as well as Raze, who also is, maybe less talked about, but still very good within the Game Changer scene. Experience from the roster with Immortals, where, they've kind of been coasting towards that mid-pack of the signed teams, but still always had great potential to upset, which is why, you just saw Tupperware IGL here currently for this guy's team. So I think that Raze and both Raze and Jazzykins are a great addition here to Complexity.
Yeah, and if we're talking about Complexity, obviously you got to talk about the OG, the one that's been there for the longest time, Lacey. And with Lacey, listen, I'm a big Harbor fan. I know a lot of people probably aren't, but to me, Harbor is probably one of the best just overall smokes that we can get on a map, any map in particular, right? You're looking at what Lacey can bring to the table, and they have just recently started implicating this Harbor down into the current map pools that are now into this season, and overall, it has been so strong. You're looking at the ACS in comparison to what Lacey typically plays down in that initiator role, and that transition coming down to Harbor. They realize exactly what they need to do, and a lot of the time, you're probably going to see down inside of what we're probably going to witness with these maps coming up. Lacey is a camouflage, as a chameleon coming down behind their smokes. They feel more confident and more inclined to take these fights. And not only that, but I feel like there is a lot more impact down when Lacey is playing that Harbor role. They tend to have, those walls creating that coverage. They peak those very confidently. And I feel like that in itself has helped Lacey tremendously in winning out majority of these fights. So all I'm going to say is look out for Lacey.
We definitely will look out for Lacey, especially with this map's picks and bans coming in. And Vans, you mentioned Pearl. Unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing that right now. Although something that I'm excited for, but it's in the last. It's only going to go if we see it in Game 3, but that's okay. We're starting things off though with Fracture, which is Complexity's pick.
Yeah.
Do we love it? Hate it?
I love it. I actually love the 3 maps going into here too, because yes, maybe I talked about a Harbor towards a map like Pearl, but it could still sort of, you could still do some decent things with a Harbor on Fracture, for example, too, but it really depends, right? This is a map where Complexity, I think if I'm not mistaken, you were talking about Lace before here, Gompers, but she's going to switch usually and playing a Sage onto this map, so what I like about this, if I'm looking at this map rotation for Complexity and the map picks that we're currently seeing, is that Complexity are not always, this year in 2023, leaning towards like the comfort picks, right? Like when you think about Lace for Complexity, you think about Silva, you think about her shot guards, you think about how flicky she is on an agent trying to clutch the rounds here for Complexity. But now they're going and leaning towards different types of agent compositions too on the main support roles. So I like that. Moving into Split, I like it even more because as I've mentioned before, it's not every day that you see a Pug team going into a map pick such as Split, where you need good coordination to really try to split up this map and really work like on default, so you can work from like mid to A, mid to B. Mid is so important, and you need some great lurk capabilities, and I'm hoping to see that at least in that second map.
Now, something that we touched up on earlier, but we unfortunately have not seen yet, but I will say this map selection in particular will allow for it a lot more. Gompers, Gecko, are we going to be seeing our favorite wingman in play today?
You know, I haven't seen any Gecko brought out from Complexity, although I think it would be very good if we got to see it. Not only from my side, but also on Tanner. I know Tanner was looking forward to seeing that Gecko. We haven't seen it yet, but hopefully I think we should. I think Gecko has so much opportunity, and I gotta be real with you. I think so much opportunity on Split. The biggest part about Split is really just getting those defusals through and trying to play for those post plans. And I think having the Gecko there to not only assist with those defusals, but also create some of those fake outs needed in order to get that space. Since Split is so difficult to get that space creation coming down around towards mid, or even getting onto site and really seeking out behind down towards pillar. It's very difficult with these twists and turns. So I think Gecko would be such a good addition.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially on a map like Fracture. Like I said, there's a possibility that it might not get picked, but it could definitely be doable on a map like Fracture because of the way that you want to play on the defender side, right? If you're actually going to throw that Dizzy towards the air to find information right away, get real cooldowns really quickly, get the attack plants, but I still would see that we're leaning more towards a Sage so that you can have more on the defense in terms of deniabilities on the pushes.
Well, it looks like you both are not going to be in my hot seat today because we do have a game underway here.
Yeah, just ask Tanner when you tested him.
I will absolutely. The Tanner curse, let's see if it holds tried and true still right here. Dryad, Tanner, take us away.
Well, alrighty. I just got back, unfortunately. I didn't catch the tail
I can
end
let
of
you
the
know,
desk.
don't worry.
Don't worry about it because it sounds like the players are getting ready to jump into Agent Select. We have more important things to talk about, Dryad. I guess now we get to give our 2 cents, right? We've got a team in Complexity that look like they've leveled up with the addition of Raze and Jazzkins, obviously, has talked about it. But a Teddy Tactics team, that a lot of people might not know, right? A lot of people in the chat might be here to watch Complexity play, but this Teddy Tactics squad has been putting in the work. When you look at all of the tournaments that are happening outside of GC, Teddy Tactics are there.
Yeah, they've been playing recently in a couple of tournaments here and there, and it's so fun because they're getting a lot of support from the community, especially the community that we know, and they've been improving, and they've been talking about the improvement of these individual players, but of course a big task here as they go against Complexity with a mix of the core players from last year and the new players and the new additions that look very, very strong.
And they mentioned maybe a little bit of bias. We'll see who the observers end up following mostly. We're going to be watching closely, Pressy. So, all eyes on you. Pinecone, a good friend of ours, choosing to compete versus working the show today. Obviously, a very tall task ahead of them. And I guess a relatively stark difference in the double Sentinel comp. Lace going to be playing the Sage here. No necessarily need for a Sova. It doesn't seem like they found a way to work in the Harbor, so Sage is home for Lace right now.
Yeah, and this is not really a surprise. They just played this map on the first match that they had of the day, and they were actually, for the side of Complexity, they were able to run away with a 13-2, so very one-sided on their side, which is what we expect from a team like this one, from players like these ones. And one of the things that the desk was talking about, right, was the integration of these two new players, and something is telling me that especially for Jazzykins, the integration has to be so easy because Jazzy is such an explosive player. That Complexity loves to play around, and they like that style, especially when she's going to be on the race for map number 1.
Yeah, Raze for map number 1. It's interesting to see too that Jazzy, or that it's Lace who actually helms that Sage role, because I mean, like any duelist knows, if it's a Sage map, typically it's your duelist to flex to it, right? We see players like Koala Noob do it. We see it on maps like Split. Obviously, sometimes the Sage makes its way out this way, but Jazzykins saved this time around. Meanwhile, Jazzykins going to be having a direct head-to-head with Ella or Elaborate on the other side. Information gathering for Teddy Tactics as well. Not too bad, right? You can get a camera a little bit deeper than you can a Killjoy turret. Obviously, the Fade Eye is direct info gathering, so we're expecting Cal to have themselves a good bit of importance on this team. And I've seen Pinecone's Breach on Fracture. I've played with Pinecone's Breach on Fracture. Chat, let me just tell you, you're in for a wild ride.
One of the interesting things as well about this composition from Teddy Tactics is that it seems like a little bit of an outdated composition. It is one that we saw early on in Challengers North America with specifically the Cypher and the Fade. We saw it, I remember in the qualifiers, we saw it from the Nation, we saw it, I believe, from G2 as well. And then everybody started moving into what we're seeing from Complexity, right? That Killjoy that we've gotten the chance to see over and over again. And in those chances to get those lures made a little bit easier with that combination.
And here we go, a topside crunch early from this Teddy Tactics defense that finds, well, just the Killjoy turret. Claudia able to take those ropes to safety and make the call that one of these sites could quite possibly be cleared. It looks like Complexity have found a home here on the A side, but I mean, there's a couple of kids outside throwing rocks at the windows. For now, it's those ghost shots that go through the sky smokes, but not much found.
And just waiting for a little bit longer here. 3 of the players towards drop, but the smoke on the other side have to wait it out as the spike does get planted.
And the wall was expended, but nobody's coming from spawn. It's just a complete crunch here.
And waiting on the other side, the crossfire, the swing has to be at the same time. Claudia's gonna forget the first one. Race just able to answer in time too.
Yeah, played so well. 2 players inside sand. Elaborate gonna try their hand at it as well. Unfortunately, it's all up to just Cal. Astru falls to the pistol of Jazzykins. Cal falls to the Boombot. And that round is a flawless one in favor of Complexity.
The positioning as well to get that entry was so clean. A little bit different to what we're used to seeing on these attacking side. But then, I mean, enough time to get into this position, make that pistol round easy for Complexity.
Now, they shouldn't have too hard of a time. Lace somehow, some way, the most confident on the team, actually buying that full rifle half shields. Didn't find a kill, an assist, or a death in that pistol round, but...
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Honestly, it's very fitting. We've seen this player, we've talked to Lace. I remember last year, and she's just so upbeat, so energetic, so confident, and she adds that to the team in a way that, I mean, it's so hard to do, and you definitely want to see it on the second round.
A good wall to get across, smokes her down as well, so no spam to come on through. Raze allowed to plant. Out go the Nano Swarms. Claudia gonna make sure that they can secure this round. As Teddy Tactics all 5 still tucked away in their spawn.
On the other side, they also have a wall to deal with, or just to wait around, hoping to do some damage. I don't think they know there's a rifle on the other side, but they're gonna wait, see if they can get some frags before the round ends.
Okay, they're about to find out that there's rifles here. Lacey.
Now they know.
Yeah, gonna send some shots. The Spectre's gonna go on through. Finally, Lace will find their first. Holy, wait a second. Aria made this one look doable. Unfortunately, singing the Requiem. Our Complexity as we find ourselves yet another flawless round.
2 flawless rounds in a row. It's something that we don't see very often at any level, but for Complexity, again, you just have to be expecting it. This is a team that at the end of last year was looking so strong. Obviously couldn't have that deep run, but was having some head turns because of the performances. And yeah, of course, with the changes, the compositions even have to change. I know there's a conversation that I've heard a couple times about the Sage being played when teams are just finding that comfort to make those entries into side a little bit easier. That could be the case for Complexity, and as well as Lays with everything that we talked about with her personality and just being that lead in that sense is gonna be easier. But this is the round that matters, and Icon already going down.
Yep, falling early in this on a solo mission up towards the top side of the map. Arcade. That's a weapon upgraded. That one gonna go to the hands of Jazzy. Quick work made of the trap wire there. Camera taken down, and still alive is Astru. Will hide for now. Up on top of the wall, Lace gets a little too aggressive and gets greeted by 3 defenders of Teddy Tactics, but once more, a spike that's planted.
And it's a 4v4, very much doable. That rifle for Lace is gonna get taken down, but it's still gonna be one in the hands of Jazzykins. Dangerous player to have this gun.
A great cross here, though. Jazzy finds the first bit of information. A player still on the site. That's Raze. They've been dealt with. Elaborate to find the first. Kara there for the trade. Jazzy finally starting to find the angle that she was looking for. And it's all starting to come together once more for Complexity as they put 3 in a row.
That's why it's dangerous. Jazzykins 3 kills at the end, and a bonus conversion that works perfectly for Complexity. We actually got to see a couple of those bonus runs for that match number 1. We got to see these guys. We got to see 2 of them being converted. Now we get to see the 3rd one on this match number 2. And it's just a confidence booster. It gives you so much to work with. And now the Teddy Tactics, they don't have too much besides that orbital strike in the hands of Aria.
And this is a scary round to call for that investment, the orbital strike.
Bomb buddy
But imagine they hang on to that. They do stack the B side. Unfortunately, the wrong call for now. Arya going to rotate over, make sure that these smokes are cross-mapped should they need them.
Yeah, and even with that ultimate that we mentioned, you want to wait for potentially that next round for that lockdown to get utilized by Claudia and shutting it down with their orbital strike. So it just more than anything, trying to have the damage with the guns that they have, with the sheriffs that they had. And honestly, there's a big chance here, though, for Teddy Tactics. The impact that they have on a pistol round like this one and the rounds that they've gotten, the distance that it took them for that match number 1. But the beginning, though, is going to be slower for Complexity, still giving that respect.
And Complexity just with the right call here. Everybody on this side of the map, the A site, the only defender here is Arya with that stinger, and she might not be here for long. Forced off from the fault line, the paint shells, the smokes as well. Wall goes up once more, so no spam, nope. Okay, orbital strike is actually going to buy some time, so the rotate to come on through, but again, the weapons aren't the best.
And there's a wall, right? So they're going to have to destroy it. That's going to take even longer time. The utility is on point for Complexity. The operator as well. Lays spots one, turns around. The other one also gets taken down. And one by one, shot down. 4 rounds for Complexity.
Yeah, 4th round picked up. I said the duelist usually plays the Sage. I mean, Lace looked like a duelist to me. Looked like a Jet player with the op in hand. Those were 2 great kills, regardless of what the weapons were on the other side. Made sure that she did not miss a shot. And just like you mentioned a round ago, lockdown's now available here, Dryad.
And the orbital strike got utilized. So that was the one thing that was holding them down, making sure that that lockdown gets destroyed immediately. And not having to play so close, not having to risk your life, not to play for contact just for it. But now that's not a chance anymore, so the lockdown, a big tool that Complexity is going to have. Oh, and now Elaborate goes down.
Yeah, speaking of big tools. Ooh, okay, Arya, good peek there. Jazzy not quite ready for the low play. Now Arya put in a tough spot. 2 players on the other side, and Aftershock will force her hand, and Raze will find the kill.
Even then, it's a 4v3, but Lockdown is going to get invested. I like this, though. This rotation of utility of ultimates for this side of Complexity. Yeah, it's going to force this side of Teddy Tactics to go all the way back. Wait.
And you can just never count anybody out, right? 4 rounds in, the 5th round, it's their next buy round. At 3v4, you don't want to be too disrespectful. So Complexity give all the respect over to Teddy Tactics. Drop that lockdown, make sure they can secure the site. Nice and simple, and now they'll look to hang on to it. Lace to find the first here in the retake as Claudia is there to double up the next, and Raze will find one on the way out. A 5th now in a row for Complexity.
And another really aggressive one. You can tell how they've been preparing for this side of Complexity, these post plans with 2 players, and even Lays with his operator holding those angles and even holding for a little bit longer, trying to guarantee that kill. Something that, like I said, we usually see from the duelist players, but I mean, hey, Lays is ready for anything.
Lace really is. With that one ult used, another one gained. Raze now with the orbital strike in hand, but a couple on the opposite side. Unfortunately, one of those ults, you need to find a kill, and that is then the one stat that's been eluding Teddy Tactics thus far. Elaborate will get one back. Paint shells go out. A good sees. How much more does this get? Unfortunately, it seems the answer is nothing. Uncle Rico makes an appearance, and those paint shells go over the mountains, and the rest of Complexity survive.
And the combination of utility, once again, I mean, we've seen it across all different maps by different teams with that race and that fade, but the timing wasn't quite right because the race was playing far forward. It's taken down, but still the Sheriff's trying to have some impact. This is 3v3.
And Cal, they found themselves a nice kill, unfortunately.
One enemy remaining.
Dug out of their hole with the orbital strike. Now Arya gonna try their hand, but the high-low is just a bit too much. 6 now on the board for Complexity. 6 unanswered, I should say.
And it feels so fast so far for so many of these rounds, but the beginning for Complexity has been having a couple variations, and a couple of them have involved them going in really slowly. I think that's why we see that Raze for the side of Teddy Tactics pushing forward, not expecting that fast play towards A main, and ends up being their wrong read. So Complexity good for 6 and 0 found by Teddy Tactics.
Another full buy, 3 ultimates to the good. Showstopper available, good stun here. Lace just gonna get run down, looks away from the flash and doesn't land the shot. Instead, Kara does. Good backup there from the breach of complexity. And I mean, that right there is enough to say, hey, we need to back away from it all for Teddy Tactics.
Showstopper in the meantime for Jazzykins, holding it a little bit longer, but this is one of those rounds that can be close by the amount of ultimates on both sides. And like you said, depends on the kill first for that information if you're going to see that neutral theft. But more than anything, that Nightfall that maybe doesn't have as much impact as other ultimates, it can at least create that slowing down that you want to see for complexity, because once they're trying to go into side, you cannot stop them. You can also stop the kills. Pinecone going down.
And I had said this as a joke earlier, Dryad, but all of the skins are available to these players. And the fact that Kara is choosing willingly to use the Wasteland Vandal, I don't know how I feel about that.
There's worse, you know.
There is, sure, but I mean, it had to have lost a bet to be locking that one in.
It's not the Smite Phantom. As long as it's not that one, I'm good.
That is true.
Oh, the minimal.
I must wait a moment.
Man, that's right. I mean, a shot right through the heart of Keg Shouts, because yeah, the minima is also up there for.
Does he like it?
It's his favorite skin.
Oh, I think he just does that to be different. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's just no way.
Well, Dryad, you've been canceled. Expect a bit longer.
I mean, there's a lot of skins. But in the meantime, the complexity, good for 7 rounds. And for the first time, actually, that we get to see the save from Teddy Tactics. It was 3 players alive. One of them even holding a Guardian and ends up keeping it for the next one. Now, I talked about it last round. That round had to be a heavy ultimate round because of the way things turned down with Elaborate going down early on. It decided to stay alive for a little bit longer, so this is the one that you expect to have a bigger impact, especially if things are going to change around and go the way of Teddy Tactics.
Yeah, they are able to reinvest. Pinecone able to buy a weapon back into this one, only bringing in the light shields, however. One away from an ultimate of their own. Rolling Thunder just about available for both of these teams. Meanwhile, it's Kara, the only one that hangs on to an ultimate.
That was going to be so good. And you know, you already saw this setup with the Raise and the Fade.
Yeah, and they just buy it out right there. They make a little bit of noise, show a little bit of presence, and they get that. Probably, arguably, some of the scariest pieces of utility in the map are now gone.
Even the players as well rotating, having an idea of where this hit is going to end up, but it might be too late. Never mind, Jazzy goes down.
Yeah, no respect there. The trap wires could still be set up. Nope, paint shells, blast pack, nothing to clear those out as Jazzy falls. Resurrections there atop the wall. Kara and found a good trade kill, and with that, 5 players alive here for complexity as Rays will stay tucked away in the corner. Op shot through the wall, and Pinecone lives to fight for a bit longer.
Oh, and again, the numbers just being too strong. 3 players still alive for the side of Teddy Tactics. These are the numbers that made them save last round, but they cannot afford to lose them anymore. Have to go for it as the time runs out, though it becomes so much more difficult, and they're still gonna save the rifles remaining. A difficult one. They had the right read. They don't spot anybody that sees. Doesn't catch anybody towards A main. But not enough. In a way, it becomes very predictable with the Cypher utility always being towards B. But you were not expecting those. Jazzykins going down for it. But even then, just perfect capitalization of that side control from complexity.
Yeah, and I mean, difficult, right? That Jazzy falls and the resurrection is right around the corner. So that small glimpse of hope that Teddy Tactics had gets stripped away due to the ultimate of Lace. And we will finally see, just before our 9th round, a Teddy Tactics timeout who, I mean, at this point in the game, they've exhausted a lot of options. We've seen them try to play around the map, and I think anybody would tell you, right? If you're playing Fracture, it does not feel good to be stuck inside the tuna can that is your spawn every time you're rotating, right? You want to be able to get out and breathe around the map to play these retakes, top side arcade, bottom side A main, players coming from obviously spawn, but you don't want to be all 5 sardines, you know, inside your spawn trying to find your way onto the site because it just feels impossible at that point.
And it's difficult because we see the side of Teddy Tactics on this defense trying to position and trying to get a forward position in a couple of these rounds. But Complexity, they're not letting them know exactly how it's going to play out. They're always changing a little bit of the playbook. And so it's so much harder for Teddy Tactics to read. You saw that last round. They waited a little bit longer for that C's and nade combo. And I mean, they still couldn't catch anything. It forced that rotated, and we saw how that went.
And let's see what changes. B-side setup still here for the Cypher, Astro. The only player, however, holding on to this B-side for now. Meanwhile, 4 stacked strong out towards A for Teddy Tactics.
And only one of the players have Complexity towards his north side. That, of course, being that Killjoy. And Teddy Tactics waiting for the right opportunity. The thing is that those re-hits become so much more difficult because of the ultimates. But yeah, there it is. Showstopper doesn't get anything, but the first kill, Claudia goes down.
Oh, Astro just gives up too much there. Thought that maybe could find Jazzykins because of that utility, but instead, Jazzy sends off that rocket. Will find that trade kill. So the Sentinels are down, and we are seeing a little bit, right, of Teddy Tactics playing around this map, but now they have to try and win out the fights as the Nightfall goes through. Prowler finds absolutely nothing. Raze still spinning here, expecting a player on all sides, and they're all starting to be dealt with. The hop onto the spike. Raze will quickly deal with Pinecone. Cal now to work their way onto the site through an incendiary. And that's just not a piece of utility that you can tank. Aftershock just behind it, and it just gets so much more daunting. A couple of taps, a flash, and a double swing later means a 9th round found by Complexity.
Oh, and you can see after that timeout, kind of the game plan for Teddy Tactics, just playing a little bit faster, playing aggressive with those ultimates, with a Nightfall as well, but nothing to be found besides those straights. And that's the thing about Complexity. Every time one of their players goes down, that being Jazzykins because she's trying to get the entry, or anybody else, they're so quick to trade. And so the situation, the numbers advantage that Teddy Tactics is trying to have doesn't get any value towards the end of the round.
And that's, I mean, one of 4 ultimates. Finally, we get another one used, and
Nobody.
Claudia, is just going to get out of dodge. This is very reminiscent of the pistol round, and we'll see if it yields the same results for Teddy Tactics, or if they can finally get themselves on the board.
Oh, and it's crazy because everybody from Teddy Tactics pushed aggressive towards the northern part of the map, and nobody was there that time around for Complexity. Oh, the mental games are insane, and now they plan to spike. They have to play this retake. I mean, there's a chance here, but Complexity, they already did this to them.
And there's not a single person on the site there for that one. Orbital strike to go into the spawn. Jazzy, the only player inside Sands. Paint shells to try and buy her some extra time. Haunt dealt with through the smoke. Cal looks to push knife out. Jazzy goes down, but Lace will find another. The sky smokes are there. The orbital strike in response as Pine looks to get it halfway, but it does not get close enough. And Cal once more in a difficult situation, and it yields the same result. Another round for Complexity.
And there's still a chance here for Teddy Tactics, but Complexity has been dominating today. Have only played one match, and this one, right? But the first map that they got today was a 13-0, and then the second one was a 13-2. So, I mean, they're not here to give any rounds to the enemy team. They're gonna play every single round to perfection, no matter who they're facing, and that's what they're proving so far with 10 rounds in a row.
And I don't know if the desk mentioned it, but had a chat with Slav, and Slav assured me, the coach of Complexity GX3, assured me that we would be seeing them in the finals based off of what they've got cooked up. And I think if anybody was going to believe that Complexity is one of the strongest teams in the tournament, which we all know, they have to beat teams like Teddy Tactics in this fashion, right? You have to really take it to these teams in groups to cement yourselves as one of the top teams. And they've done that so far. Meanwhile, A main control, well, it was under control by Teddy Tactics, but quickly taken back by complexities. Cal, third time's a charm. Cal, nope, never mind.
Yeah, so difficult. 4 players alive for complexity, and yeah, that's one of the things that you were saying, right? About being able to. And I remember actually Cloud9 last year talking about this. When you are the dominant team, the favorite team, and you know you are in terms of practice and individual plays, everything else, you want to show it in that score. You don't want it to be close, but you want to have those dominant performances in complexity. I mean, they're absolutely doing it so far. 11 rounds, zero to be found by Teddy Tactics. In a neutral tap that hasn't been utilized just yet. A tough buy here for the last one of the half.
A rough buy, an awkward situation there. Astrude narrowly walking away with her life as Claudia left the only player here to hold the line will be dealt with. Meanwhile, Astrude gonna hold the close angle and iPad out, Bulldog out, and it's taking bites out of players of complexity. But a 1-for-1 trade inside the towers still finds complexity a player down. The spike to worry about. Spam comes through, Boombots out. Paint Shell's on the response. Another kill found. That's Aria to fall. Kara holds it down for 2 more. Make it 3 on the round as Cal will try their hand again in the 4th time. Will not be the charm either. It's a flawless half for complexity.
Oh, so many chances, and if there's gonna be one round that Cal was gonna clutch, it had to be that one. But so difficult. A little bit of a crossfire, and Kara just shutting down 3 players one by one. I mean, there was the read that one of the players was gonna be towards that side, but the timing was just perfect. 12 rounds for complexity. Are they gonna take another 13-0 today?
Well, now they're not because you mentioned it, Dryad.
Okay, well.
Production, get the counter going this pistol round.
It hasn't happened yet. Wait. Give it time. They might.
Okay, let it breathe. Right, let it breathe. You're right.
Satchel out.
Yep, a tough situation, and I think this is exactly what you would expect. Okay, maybe not all by their lonesome. No way. Jazzy is still alive. 2 kills make it 3. Just about a 4th, and there it is. It's not Cal this time around. It's Astrude. In complexity, they've broken the Dandryad curse. They say you cannot cast or curse us. We will, in fact, find ourselves another 13-0 on the day, and there it is. A flawless map of Fracture will find complexity 1 map the lead in this best of 3 series.
Absolute domination for complexity. I mean, it looks so good, so clean, and when you get these kind of maps from a team, you're also able to save so much on so many of those strategies and really complicated strategies to the matches that come next, to the next couple days, because they have a long way to go, but they also have a long way to go on this match. Maybe, I mean, this side of Teddy Tactics is definitely not feeling that fracture, but we know what they're capable of, and that's what we want to see for map number 2.
Yep, absolutely. This is a 3-game series, or a best of 3, I should say here. The winner of this one does qualify for the close qualifier. Our bracket play moving forward, they'll find themselves out of groups here in day 1. And, well, if Complexity are going to do it, they're 1 map away. If Teddy Tactics want to do it, they'll have to do it in reverse sweep fashion here in the best of 3. We're going to hop away for a short break as the desk will break down that flawless map from Complexity.
Red Bull gives you wings.